Today I'm going to be speaking about Alexander Graham Bell. As you know, he is the inventor of the telephone, but you may not know about him as a person, all he has accomplished throughout his life. That is why I am going to take you on a journey into his life, so that you'll learn more about him. I'm going to start with his early life. He was born on March the 3rd, 1847, in Edinburgh, Scotland. The name Alexander Bell was given to him by his paternal grandfather, who was also Alexander Bell. His father was Alexander Melville Bell, and his mother was Eliza Grace Simons Bell. He was the second son born out of three sons. His brothers were Melvin James Bell and Edward Charles Bell. Both his grandfather and father were speech teachers. They worked with the hearing impaired, and they hoped that Alexander Bell would also follow in their footsteps. His mother was a big influence in his life. She was hearing impaired. She had a special way, he had a special way of communicating with his mother. He would talk very close to her forehead so that she could feel the movement of his voice. She was also a very good pianist. She was the one who taught her son to look beyond people's disadvantages and see what all they have more to offer. She also homeschooled him throughout his life, and later on he spent 1 year in private school and 2 years at the Edinburgh Royal High School. During that time, while he was growing up, tuberculosis was a deadly disease, and it affected his household also. One of his brothers died from it, and the disease also affected Alexander and his other brothers' health, making them weak. Later on, when his other brother died to tuberculosis, his father moved them to America, wanting to settle there to improve their health. They ended up settling in Brantford, Canada. They worked closely with the deaf and the mute, and Alexander helped his father in his speech correction work. On one occasion, his father was supposed to give a lecture in Boston for the deaf and mute. His father could not go, so Alexander went in his place. He loved Boston so much that he moved there. Over there in Boston, he tutored deaf students. He also began working on telegraph transmission. He wanted to make a device that would help the deaf to hear and speak. He also began working on human voice being transmitted on electric wires. He worked with an electrician named Thomas Watkins. One day, the story goes that while they were testing their work, Alexander accidentally dropped acid, and he yelled, "Mr. Watson, come here, I want you." That was the very first phone call because Mr. Watson was able to hear him on the wires in the next room, his voice. Alexander Bell married one of his former students, Mabel Hubbard. Her father was one of the ones who helped support him financially throughout his work on the telegraph and the telephone. They had 4 children together. Slowly, his telephone became very popular, with everyone wanting to have one in their household. This made communication with each other faster and easier. Other than inventing the telephone, not much is known. A lot of people don't know that Alexander Graham Bell was also a scientist. He developed the Volta Laboratory in which he conducted scientific research. Some of the inventions that he created were the metal detector and the audiometer to hear with. But he always worked closely, no matter where he was or what he was doing, he always worked closely with the deaf and the mute. He developed the American Association to promote the teaching of speech to the deaf. He wanted to use methods such as lip reading so that people with hearing and impairment could speak and talk without any problem. I mean, they could be a part of society, living in society. Even though Alexander Graham Bell achieved a lot in his life, everything has to come to an end. He died on August the 2nd, 1922, in Cape Breton Island in Nova Scotia in Canada. It is said that that day there was a moment of silence for him, and for 1 minute, all the telephone calls were halted so that he got the recognition he deserved. This concludes the journey into Alexander Graham Bell's life. Before I go, I would like to leave you with one of his quotes. "A man, as a general rule, owes very little to what he is born with. A man is what he makes of himself." Thank you.